Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this moment at any corner of this beautiful world. My name is Aideli Rios. I'm the founder and director of Wapalita Empowering Equality. And today I'm super excited, super happy for introducing our speaker. This webinar is going to be super amazing. It's one of my favorite topics, indeed. I just shared to our speaker today that I'm so excited to learn from her and from all this content that we're going to receive today. So before saying her name, I'm going to tell a bit about who she is. And you're not going to believe it, but the ones who don't know her. She is actually the founder of a very amazing organization, the Ragier, and this is a talent management organization. She also has a master's certification in coaching by ICF, and she's a professional Enneagram accredited. And you know what? In 2024, she was the winner of the Global Women of Influence Award. And her name is Muriel Cartret. So welcome, Muriel. We are so happy to have you here and to learn from you and also to share all this amazing knowledge and experience that you have accumulated in your career. Thank you. The stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to you, Aideli. Thank you so much to all attendees, participants here. Thank you for the congrats that I can see. Well, it would not have been possible without the clients and without all people who inspired me. So thank you so much to everyone, and you are part of them. So thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm very excited to be here with you today. So before going deeper into the topic, I just would like to share with you our objectives for today, because today it's an introduction, of course. So it's an introduction. So the objectives, Adelie, the objectives for you today in maximum 1 hour is to recognize that we all have our unconscious patterns, and those patterns, which may be emotional, behavioral, or seeking patterns, they influence our leadership. They influence the way we work. One other objective for today is to learn how coaching and the Enneagram can support your leadership journey and be transformative. And in order to make you feel a bit more understandable, I will share with you some real life cases. So from some of my clients, of course, I will mention the confidentiality, so no names. And we will connect the growth, personal growth, professional growth, to something bigger than ourselves and than business. And we can also spend some time to recognize some key leadership habits and how they shape your success. So how does it sound to you?
Amazing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. So I think we can start with a personal story. We all have a personal story. If you can, yeah, thank you so much. So the personal story, we all have some patterns. I have patterns also, So I share with you a bit of my story. Wow. When I was young, I believed that I had to be wise and that I had to behave in a certain way to be liked. I thought that there was only one way to do things, the right way. So, well, what does that mean? It means that I had a tendency at that time to reject the ways that didn't meet my expectations because there was only one way, and I was so convinced of this. So over time, I realized that it was a pattern in myself. So I constantly wanted to improve things, and I wanted to avoid mistakes because mistakes were just unacceptable, my mistakes and mistakes. And in fact, I also realized that I gave some advice to my friends, even though they didn't ask for this. So, but it felt so natural to me. So I didn't realize the impact this had on my relationships and at work. And one day I discovered the Enneagram. And it was a ha-ha moment. The Enneagram, I was blown away by the Enneagram. So I realized that my drive for improvement was not only a strength, but it was also a growth area. So it means that I started noticing that this drive, could slow down my projects, could drain my energy, could move away my friends sometimes from me, and so much more. So this created self-awareness around the way I behaved, but why I behaved as I behaved. And I highlight the why, which is truly important to me. So that's what I wanted to share with you. So I would say that I also changed the way I saw things and I see things. So I changed my narrative from, I would say, I need to improve. I must perfect everything, to be worthy. I change this into something else, into I can inspire change through acceptance and balance. And I'm enough as I am. So that's a change. That's a big shift from me, from my story. And we all have patterns. We all have patterns that drive ourselves and limit us. So could you share a bit in the chat, please? Have you ever noticed a leadership habit that keeps you stuck, or something, a pattern that holds you back? You don't see the question at the moment, but it's on the next slide. So if you want, I can repeat the question for you. Have you ever noticed a leadership habit that keeps you stuck, a pattern that holds you back? Could you please write this in the chat? And there's no judgment at all. We are here in a safe place. Everything here is kept confidential, I would say. So now the link will be given to people who registered. So, and I think to elderly community. So if you don't want to share something, feel free. If you want to share, feel free. My pattern, chronic worrying. Thank you for sharing. I believe there are better people in the world to do what I want to do. Okay. Thank you. There are better people in the world to do what I want to do. So for Madhumita and Divya, would you mind to share a little bit more, if you like? If you don't want, it's totally fine. Chronic worrying, about what, for instance? Is there something in particular? I guess I need to accept every person has his or her own tempo for learning. Yeah. So the pattern that this is not perfect, this is not the best time. Okay. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. We all have patterns, and it's quite normal. It's human. So, Andalie, may I kindly ask you to show the next one, please? Yeah. So there were some patterns that we can see here, or some blind spots also. So, such as, for instance, self-doubt or overthinking, criticism and perfectionism, difficulty and balance, the difficulty to balance vision with execution, or some people may struggle with being visible or with being influential, or some people may struggle with saying no, or some people are sometimes overconfident because they were successful in the past, and so on. So those are patterns. Oh, I can see that Madhumita answered. Since it's chronic, it's for anything and everything, but mainly about me messing up on money or health. Okay, thank you for sharing. We'll talk a bit about this later. Pattern, it may come from I need to be best in the field to do things. Perfectionism. Okay, we'll talk also about this. So I propose to go through each of them. So self-doubt and overthinking. In my practice, for instance, well, I would say that self-doubt and overthinking may be positive. It may be positive because they have a protective role, but they become a growth area when they stop us from doing something. And in my coaching, I meet sometimes some leaders who hesitate to make bold decisions because they overthink or they doubt too much. Some leaders who can feel the fear of failure or fear of making mistakes, which can lead to procrastination. Some of them can look for external validation instead of using their own leadership voices, and so on. Concerning criticism and perfectionism, so sometimes I can meet some leaders and coaches, and we all are leaders in a way. So leaders can set high standards for themselves and for others, sometimes impossible standards for themselves and others. They constantly strive for perfection, which slow execution because they spend sometimes too much time to improve something. But is it something which is requested, which is required? Not sure. And sometimes there's the fear of being judged, which make leaders also resist delegating to others. Concerning the third one, the difficulty to balance vision and execution. So some people are very good at visions. They are what we call visionaires, but they struggle in execution. They have big ideas, but they don't know exactly how to implement this into action. So other people are more task-oriented, and sometimes, well, they are told, oh, you should step back to think bigger. So, and the sustainable leadership require both vision and execution. The visibility and influence. Well, some people prefer being under the scene or behind the scenes. Well, and it's okay. Some people, some coaches would like to develop their own activities, for instance, and they struggle with being visible on the social media. So this is just a behavior, but the why behind this is what matters most. So visibility and influence, speaking up, setting clear expectations, and leading with confidence is key. Visibility is not about ego, it's about, according to me, impacting others and leading with integrity and with clarity. So I could continue. For instance, the difficulty to say no. Well, it's a behavior. But the reason behind, and we'll talk about this in the second part when we'll talk about the Enneagram. In addition to the culture and or to our environment, what hinders us from saying no? There's a core motivation inside that we'll explore in some minutes. So we all have some patterns, repeating patterns. We can change companies, other positions, and so on. And those patterns come and come and come again. And sometimes we have some blind spots, meaning that we are not aware about our perfectionism, for instance, or something else. So leadership is not just about what we do, but it's also about who we are. And we need to be self-aware. So being self-aware will enable us to grow and to shift from where we are now to another place. And that's what I call sustainable leadership, which goes beyond personal success, beyond financial success, beyond business. So it's about making a positive impact, creating value, which is not only for yourself, but for the organization, your people, and society in general, something bigger. So let's explore why sustainable leadership matters now before going into the Enneagram. Yeah, so I just would like to, so as you understand, we are shifting from, I would say, a vision which is our personal growth to something much more bigger. For instance, Patagonia. Do you know Patagonia, the company Patagonia? You can write it in the chat if you know Patagonia. No. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay. So to make it short, Patagonia is a company in the retail industry. So they started for people who are adventurous, who love adventure. And over time, they started proposing recycling. And the founder of Patagonia, who cares a lot about planet, decided to set up a kind, it's not exactly foundation, but kind of committee and foundation which use a part of the income of the company's money in order to finance other projects from other people who also care about the planet. So it's something what I call sustainability, sustainable leadership. It's something bigger than us. It's for the greater good, for the planet. So Patagonia shows to care about the planet, but there's also something else, I would say. If you had a look on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, you will see all the goals, the 17 goals. So there were some goals about women, some goals about consumption, some goals about, everything is about planet and humanity, but there were some categories. So depending on who we are more interested in designing a better world in one category than another one, but it's connected to the greater world, to the greater good, sorry. So the key message I would like to say is sustainable leadership goes beyond profits. So if I kindly ask you to write in the chat, just think about this question, because it's something bigger than you and your business. What kind of leader would you like to be? What impact do you want to have? You can share in the chat. Social impact, 100%. Wonderful. And if you want, if you are ready to explore a little bit, Ederly, would you mind sharing a bit more? What does social impact means to you? Impact on sustainable health. Okay.
Thanks
It's
for allowing me.
Madhumita. Yeah.
You know that for me, this social involvement and interaction is, I might say that is part of my mission. And that's why I'm always interacting with communities and with society. So for me, this sustainability in society plays a role for how to say, for really building new learning, most important in the new generations, right?
Yeah.
And to empower these new generations in order to go through a very self-awareness responsibility, right? Self-awareness direction. And I think that in that way we can be more prosperous in this social impact, in this change that we need in other communities. That's why I just find this route, this direction, like very stimulant for me in that matter.
Yes, thank you so much. So what I hear is that education is important to you. Education for the future generations.
Yes, correct. Education in the
Okay.
future, totally.
Yeah,
This,
thank you.
planting these seeds in the new generation, considering how the environment is right now and the needs that we have right now in terms of being more empathetic with other communities and other societies. That's for me, I guess, is the key of all, the foundation of all. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. So education is one of the 17 United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So impact on sustainable health, personal transformation will impact to the world. Exactly. Education and employment, impact on sustainable health. Wow, I love those. Wow, thank you so much for sharing. So you understand that that success, because when people say, I want to be successful, okay, but what does that mean for you, success? So sustainable leadership, I would say, is requires to redefine success. So, and it requires also a growth challenge, because it requires to it requires us to grow. So it requires to be ready to grow. And it requires, of course, sustainable leadership. So aligning leadership growth with long-term impact, including the contributions to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So that's great, but how do we do this? Well, how do we move from leadership struggles to sustainable, impactful leadership? Well, that's where coaching and the Enneagram come in. So, the Enneagram, have you heard about this before? You can write in the chat, yes or no, if you know something about this. Heard. Okay, thank you, Madhumita. Gurkan. Yes, yes, I haven't explored yet. Okay, so we can see here that there are different levels of knowledge. So, well, here it's an introduction, of course, but I want to make it understandable for everyone. So, the Enneagram is a powerful approach for leadership transformation. And I highlight the word transformation because there's a shift, as we saw before. So let's have a look at the symbol right now, if you don't mind. Well, at the next slide, before going to the symbol, if you don't mind. Yes, so it's, I would say, in this system, I call it system, you can use the word tool if you prefer, or approach, it's okay for me. But I would like first to highlight that there's no better type than another one. They all have strengths and growth areas. And this approach is valid everywhere in the world. So the Enneagram is about growth and it's not labels. And the Enneagram reveals the core motivations behind the behaviors. So imagine an onion. The onion, when you buy it to the market, you can see the skin, the brown skin. The skin is, in fact, what we show to others, is what we demonstrate, the visible, meaning the behaviors. But why do we act as we act? We all have core motivation. So the why, which is in the center, in the middle of the onion, is the Enneagram, is the core motivation. So the Enneagram reveals the core motivation and the behaviors which are behind, the core motivations behind the behaviors. So why do we act as we act? And in addition to this, for each type that I call strategy, it includes also values, defense mechanisms. So why do we want to stay stuck? Why do we want to be in our comfort zone? Why do we want to stay in our comfort zone? What is the mechanism behind this? So, and so much more. So it's not a box. When you know your preferred type, it's not a box. It's something that gives you the tailor-made key to evolve, to unlock your potential. So let's see in more details. Let's see the symbol now. Well, so the Enneagram, the word itself comes from Greek. It's a Greek word, Ennea, which means 9, and gram, which means figures or points. So as I mentioned, but it's very important, so I repeat it, the Enneagram research is the deep motivation behind the behaviors. This is key because if you want to identify your type, this is one of the keys. Do I recognize myself in the deep motivation behind the behaviors? According to the Enneagram, so we all have 3 centers of intelligence. We all act. It's what we call the action, the body center. Sorry, I mentioned it in French. French, centre instinctive. Here, personalities 8, 9, and 1. We all have the emotional center, the heart center. So 2, 3, and 4. And the mental, we all have the thinking center. So we all act, we all feel, and we all think. But what makes maybe a difference between you and I, maybe, well, it might be, for instance, which center do I use the most? And this is key because this will impact the way we see the world. So the Enneagram we all have the three intelligence centers, but we have a tendency to use or overuse one. So people or personalities, I would say ego structure, I would prefer that word, but okay, who recognize themselves in the body center, in the action center, 891, they act before feeling and or thinking. The emotional ones, they feel before acting and or thinking. And the mental ones, they think before feeling and or acting. So, facing an event, we may have different reactions due to the way we perceive the world. And so, in the Enneagram, so as I have just shared, there were three centers of intelligence. The three centers of intelligence give 9 strategies. There were 3 strategies, or called usually personality types, but according to me, it's much more than personality types. It's what we call ego structure. So, and for each ego structure, for each of them, there were 3 valuations and 9 levels of development. Of course, we won't have time to go through everything here, not at all, but I would like to give you some concrete ideas of how this is helpful in the leadership journey, either for someone working within a company and or for coaches. So let's have a look to make it concrete in the next slide. We can, yeah. So you will see that the concrete business cases ask to everyone to be self-aware and to be motivated to grow. So to step out from our comfort zone. Okay, is it okay right now? Yeah, any questions? If you have a question, feel free to write it in the chat. All good for Adderley, thank you. I wait a little bit for some seconds because sometimes over Zoom there might be some seconds before we get the message over Zoom in the chat. Okay, well, everything clear. Thank you. Okay, perfect. Let's continue then. Well, I share with you a story, which is a true story. So I remember some time ago, I was coaching someone who recognized himself as type 3. So, and I call it the overachiever who felt disconnected. This is related to this person. So I share with you the story. So we had to work on communication, on his communication style, and is also and on some other leadership goals. And in fact, when we work together, so the person is truly goal-oriented, very action-oriented, even though you remember the type 3 is an emotional one, but very goal-oriented. And when we were working together, I asked him to draw, so to make a drawing representing his team members. And he did so. He made a board with some people, and well, he explained me, yeah, this is the one responsible for this is the one responsible for that, and so on. And I asked him, oh, how many people are there in your team? And then he gave me a number which was much higher than the number of people he was representing on his drawing. And in fact, it was a ha-ha moment for him because he realized that he gave attention to people he was convinced that those people help him to be successful. Because type 3, the deep motivation is success. We all want success, but the definition is quite different. The deep motivation is to be applauded, for the success. So they work hard to avoid failures. And then the focus of attention was on people who could bring him success and be admired. To make it very, very short. So it was a aha moment. And then he realized that through coaching using the Enneagram, he realized that he could even be more successful if he were inclusive. And then after a while, so he worked more on collaboration, he changed his behavior and his communication, he was much more inclusive with everyone, and so on. And after a while, he put his tendency, his strengths, which was also a growth area, very goal-oriented, very efficiency, that's great. But he put this in the service of the team and organization by setting up ambitious goal for the company. In fact, for the company related to the consumption. So it related the goals to the United Nations Sustainable Goal number 12. So it was something bigger. Success was something bigger than for him. It was something bigger than for the team. So, but he had the focus also on the reputation of the company and the market. So this is one example of how the Enneagram can be transformative, because we work on the core motivation behind the behaviors. We work on the fears also. So the Enneagram reveals this also. So another example to give you another idea. I was coaching a lady, type 9, who had to lead a very big transformation within a big group. As I mentioned, I keep this confidential. And when I had a conversation with the key stakeholders, they share common grounds. She's very skilled, but she's too nice. So when we worked together, we had to work on what we call in coaching the assertiveness, but it was it was around this and around collaboration, because due to the change in business model and so on, they had to work in cross-functional. So they had to shift from silos to cross-functional. So we had to work together on this in order to equip the lady, the coachee, with these new skills. So when working together, okay, she was perceived as being too nice. So she mentioned, yeah, I don't want conflicts. Okay. So in coaching, we all have our own way to coach about conflicts. Okay, what do you avoid, and so on and so on. But with the Enneagram, in fact, we were able to reveal the fear behind. So, which was to feel separated. And then, in fact, she realized that the desire, the deep motivation to keep harmony, was in fact the deep motivation behind this was to keep in peace. So her deep motivation to be in peace, to keep the inner peace, let her behaving in a way to keep harmony, which means avoid conflicts. the difficulty to say no, and much more than this. So do you see how important is it to identify your core motivation behind the behaviors? Because keep harmony, be harmony, having a tendency for harmony may have another deep motivation. So in coaching, we will not raise the same questions. And when I say in coaching, it's not only the coaches, just like me, but also the leaders, because they also have a coaching hat. So, yeah. So while working together, she realized that the behavior, harmony, due to the deep motivation, created a disharmony. It was a ha-ha moment for her. So how could she keep the harmony in a different way? How could she be the leader she wanted to be and grow at the same time? So working together, she found her voice. She could be much more visible and become much more strategic also in her area and in the, I would say, perceived as being more strategic by her stakeholders. Well, another one, it's also a story of type 9, so the deep motivation, which is also to keep inner peace, but this leader had a tendency to run everywhere and to accept everything, because in the beginning he saw that he wanted to please people, but finally he realized that it was not to please people, that the motivation behind this behavior was something related to him, because he needed to keep the inner peace. So it was also a ha-ha moment, and working together, in fact, he saved 10% of his time while leading a very big IT transformation for 5,000 people. So it's a lot. It's a lot time saving. So the last one I want to share with you is concerning the team dynamics. So the team dynamics here, you can see a wheel. You can see some people here. You can see that there were 3 people who recognize themselves in type number 2, 1 in type number 9, 1 in type number 8, 1 in type number 7, and 1 in type 3. So if I ask you just to think a little bit, if you see this wheel, I know that you don't know so much in the Enneagram, but with the information that you have concerning the 3 intelligence centers, what do you notice? Just type in the chat very quickly. So there were 3 people in type 2, 1 type 3, 1 type 4. So just as a reminder, 2, 3, 4 belong to the emotional center, 8 and 9 to the action center, and the 7, type 7, belongs to the mental center. Yeah, more people in the emotional center. Yeah, exactly. Something else? No? Well, so what does that mean? For instance, for the mental one, who is alone as mental in the team. How the emotional can be seen? Yeah, mental is low. Yeah. How this team can be perceived, for the mental one. More people in the emotional center close to action. That's Madhumita. Yeah. So, well, I wait for a few seconds because there might be some seconds between your message and when I get this. Well, I don't see anything at the moment. So yeah, this team may be perceived by the mental one, just to give an example, by, wow, well, I feel that our project can be slowed down because of too much attention to people, for instance, or too much attention to people compared to ideas, for instance, or compared to analytical. It will help to understand what is the difference between mental and emotional. Is it a question, Divya? Is it, I see that there's a question mark, but do you need me to explain? Or is it something that you analyze based on the will? Okay, thank you. Yes, so the emotional, so Divya asked me to explain. So the emotional center, they feel it's the heart. So the heart, so there's a focus more on people. They feel, so they perceive the world in terms of feeling. Feelings are, I would say, very important to them. The worldview is based on people. The mental center is the world of ideas, the world of logic, the world of the world of logics. So they perceive the world in terms of thinking first, while the emotional center perceive the world in terms of feeling. Is it clear? Yes. Okay, this helps. Yes. So, as you can see, the 7 being alone as mental may get some difficulties if he wanted to influence the team, for instance. And I don't know if we see here, I think we see here that the leader is a type 2, that the culture is type 2. So if the culture of the team is type 2, it means that many people have to adapt to this culture. So what does that mean in terms of efforts, in terms of adaptations, and so on? So with the Enneagram in teams can help better understand not only ourselves, but also the impact that we have on others, on each team members. It also helps to identify what are the key strengths that I bring in to the team. What do I expect as a type 7 or 1 or whatever it is in terms of goal? What is important to me when I'm said that I need to reach this goal? So, and so on. And what do we bring in each step of the team forming? So this is what the Enneagram is all about. So the Enneagram helps self-awareness, individual growth, collective growth for the teams, for business, and beyond business. So, and it helps make big shifts from our ego structure when we are, I would say, under the influence of our false beliefs, of our patterns, automatic patterns. So it helps make shifts from this to liberate more than our potential. That's why there were 9 levels of development. Usually, people who don't work so much on themselves, they are what we call the average level, 4, 5, and the more you work, the more you develop, the more you go into the highest level of development, even though sometimes during the same day, you can go back to the average level because of a specific situation or anything else. Any questions? Any questions? Super clear. Thanks. Thank you, Ederly. When we talk of level of development, do we add on different levels? Yeah, there were different levels. So each strategy or ego structure. So there were 9 ego structures. What people say, for instance, personality types. But I don't like this expression for the Enneagram. Sorry. So for each of them, there are 9 levels of development. The average one, the highest, and the other ones. So is it clear for you? So we don't add levels. I would say yes. When I coach people, I first look at the following. Is this person at a low level of development, average level of development, or high level of development? It's important because I wouldn't raise the same questions, because it's just like a mountain, you know, you don't go up immediately. You have some steps. So from here, you go there, and then there, and then there, and then there. That's the same when coaching with this fantastic approach, which is, according to me, the most powerful in leadership development. Okay, so will it mean if we are emotional with developmental and instinct? Well, it depends on your development journey. So it's not because you are emotional that you don't use your mental on your action orientations, energies, not at all. It depends on how your emotions influence your behaviors. So, and we all have also, each type has also 3 valuations. So another question, what is the price to be trained certified in using the Enneagram? Well, I would say that I can't give you a price just like this, because it depends on what kind of training you are looking for. There were different kind of approaches. There were different, mine is very leadership oriented, but there were some people who have other approaches, and it depends on how long do you want to be trained also. So, well, I'm very happy to continue this conversation with each of you, either on the LinkedIn, or you can send me also a private message. It's up to you, also of a Zoom. So, and if you want to continue the conversation, I invite you to stay connected. You have here my my LinkedIn profile, and you can also download, if you want, a specific report that I wrote some time ago. I put it in the chat here. You just need to mention your name and your first name to download the report, so you will get other keys. And otherwise, you can find me on LinkedIn. Send me a request for connection, and I will be more than happy to continue our conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Muriel, for this amazing presentation and so many questions from the audience. So that means that, well, there was a lot of interest about this transformative leadership. And I'm pretty sure that all these people are going to contact you to continue with this talk. So ladies and gentlemen, we have the information here about Muriel. This link that was just shared to download some information, some extra information that Muriel has just prepared for all of you. Thank you so much, all the people who interacted with us. And well, this has been recorded. We are going to share also this recording to other communities. And I want to share here for some people who don't know about what we do in Guapalita Empowering Equality. We are a social organization that actually likes to promotes the continuous learning. And that's why we invite people like Muriel, these experts that really have accumulated so many experiences and so much knowledge about a particular topic. And since we like to co-create projects with people around the world, we consider very, very important to share this information, this knowledge with all of you. So feel free to contact us. I'm going to type here our website that is www.guapalita.com. So feel free to contact us and also to follow us in YouTube. There's a channel where you are going to see this recording, where you're going to take notes about this presentation, and where we are going to continue sharing more webinars like this one, because Muriel, this is not going to be the last time. We're going to meet again. And of course, we can just go into details from this presentation. Thank you so much, Muriel. Just anything else, Muriel, just to wrap up?
Well, just to wrap up, I just want to thank you, Ederly, and to thank everyone here for your amazing contributions. That I'm very excited about this, and it's always a pleasure. And if you want to be trained, I just recommend you step by step. So I would say identify your type, observe yourself, because it's also a question of great awareness around you. So important. So let's talk together if you like. I would love to talk to you. Keep in touch. Thank you so much, Guapalita and Ederly, for your amazing invitation.
Thank you, Muriel, and thank you guys for being here. And well, big hugs from the Middle East to wherever you are.